This is SportsCentre.
Hey, I'm Marissa Roberto on the Digital Sports Center presented by Montana's Barbecue and Bar. And the NHL trade deadline is quickly approaching. So we're getting to that time where we're wondering who's going to be buyers and who's going to be sellers. Our trade bait board already has a lot of big names on it. So we thought it'd be a good time to take a look at what each Canadian team should do at the deadline. With 7 Canadian teams, we can't do them all today, so we're going to do East today, West tomorrow. Starting with, you guessed it, the Leafs, and we think they should be buyers. They're in first in the Atlantic on one of the best teams in the NHL. But unlike most years, their success is not dependent on their offense. While the core 4 have played well, only 2 other Leafs are north of 20 points so far this season. And when asked about the deadline on Monday, Leafs GM Brad Treliving hinted that Toronto might be looking to make a move up front. He specifically talked about the center position and mentioned that if they had a player, they'd be looking for someone who's reliable on both sides of the puck. And with the recent John Tavares injury, which we will get to later in the show, you gotta think that there's a little more urgency there. The cap will certainly come into play as Toronto has a little over $2 million to play with. But if they can get some salary retention, maybe a union with Ryan O'Reilly would make some sense. O'Reilly fits the description of what Treliving gave, and the Preds don't look like contenders this year. And O'Reilly already has proven that he can be an effective piece for Toronto's postseason. Seems like a match made in heaven, no? I absolutely love this idea because I personally love Ryan O'Reilly, just a good dude. Now over to the nation's capital. On one hand, the Senators are right in the mix of a wildcard spot, currently riding a 3-game win streak. And President of Hockey Operations and GM Steve Staios was pretty clear about being open to making a move before the deadline. But on the other hand, being too aggressive doesn't seem wise given their current position. The Sens don't have a ton of cap space already, and even if they make an addition, the best scenario for the season is a wildcard spot. But this team really just needs to make the playoffs. So while we think the Sens should stay put this season, it would not shock us if they were buyers. The final team we're looking at is the Montreal Canadiens. And despite this recent chase for that wildcard spot, we've got them as sellers. The Habs still have a few pieces that just don't fit with the timeline of their young core, and it makes the most sense to move them now while they've got value. Guys like David Savard and Jake Evans fit the description perfectly, and it's no surprise that Savard is so high on our trade bait board. Both of those guys are older than Montreal's core, but have proven to be contributors. Getting something back for either would go a long way toward building something toward Montreal's future. So we think the Habs should be sellers at the deadline. And that's the Eastern Conference. Be sure to tune in tomorrow when we do the West. The West. Let's stick on the ice because tonight we have a huge game in Toronto as the Leafs host the Devils. Now, just on the surface level and by looking at these 2 teams in the standings, this is an unreal game as it's 2 of the top 3 teams in the conference. But when you add in the extra level of drama that is Sheldon Keefe returning to Toronto for the first time since he's been fired, there's so much more spice. If I were in the crowd, I would still cheer. Like, we went to the playoffs a lot with him, for a short time. And let's talk about that short time. Because with Keefe behind the bench, the Leafs were pretty great in the regular season. He's got the 5th most wins in franchise history and the highest points percentage in franchise history. However, the reason he lost his job was because of the playoffs, as he had just a .432 playoff winning percentage and only made it out of the first round once. Being in the crowd for some of those losses, you do feel like booing Keefe, I know, but it's fine. You know what? We've parted ways. We've got someone new. He's doing something new. We're just amicably splitting in this relationship. For Toronto, the big news is the health of John Tavares, who got injured at practice yesterday. And after watching the video, I gotta say, like most Leafs fans, I was a little worried. And sure enough, Tavares was placed on IR this morning, with the Leafs calling up Fraser Minten. This could be a big loss for Toronto, as Tavares has been as consistent as it gets this season. He's 2nd on the team in goals and 2nd on the team in assists. And after morning skate, head coach Craig Berube gave us an update about his center.
What's the outlook for Tavares?
Yeah, they announce week to week right now, so it's unfortunate in practice. It's just bad luck, but it is what it is, and we got to move on from it right now.
What is he giving you this season, Craig?
Well, everything. I mean, I think you see his production and what he's done and his leadership, and he's been an all situational guy pretty much, and he's done a real good job for us.
How does it affect your lineup tonight? Who's in?
Holmberg's in. He'll be in, and then Pacioretty's in.
Those of you in the Leafs region can watch tonight's game on TSN starting at 6:30 Eastern. Time to have my favorite segment and yours, We Love Sports Today.
Why we love sports today.
And throughout history, there are some legendary basketball games we've only heard of, and we never actually got to see what actually happened. Like the famous inter-squad scrimmage between the '92 Dream Team, and yeah, we saw some clips, but we would have loved to watch the real thing. Or the Jimmy Butler practice that ended it all in Minnesota. Well, we're gonna add a new game to that list, and that's 16-year-old LeBron James going up against Michael Jordan and some of the biggest stars at that time.
There's a story about you playing in an infamous pickup game with Michael Jordan when you were 16 years old. What was it like? Is that true? Like, can you tell us how you played?
First of all, MJ, Antoine Walker, and the rest of those guys did not let young guys get on the court at all. And I was 16 years old. I was sophomore in high school. And it takes a while to get on the court. But I did. I was on the court with Michael Jordan, Antoine Walker, Penny Hardaway.
Legend.
Ron Artest, Michael Finley, all these guys.
Who guarded you?
Nobody. I was unguardable. When I finally got out there, I was like, I'm busting, man. I was nervous. I was nervous as hell, being out there with MJ and the rest of those guys. But
Are you kidding me?
I was like, oh, I'm about to go crazy, and I did, man. I did.
Man, I wish I was in that gym that day. That's crazy stuff, man.
I can't even imagine the nerves somebody must have, but the fact that he thought he was unguardable at that time, I mean, it's fun. I want that confidence. You know what? It would be nice if we all had a little LeBron confidence. It's promo time. This is a Bardown promo time. This is gonna be about Bardowns. Eric, put your face right here. I love these guys. It's promo time. Well, the NHL sort of feels like we're in the dog days of the season. The same cannot be said for the Bardown team. We saw them absolutely demolish a group of 9-year-olds.
Cycle that puck to the net. They're going to have good positioning on the Burlington Eagles side.
And they have already scored the first goal. Thomas Pockerich from a pass from Luca Celebre.
Which sounds awful when I say it out loud like that. And after that, they added a former Jack Adams winner behind the bench as Bruce Boudreau coached the squad.
That was the worst pass I've ever seen right there. We're a mess right now. And then you still did nothing with it. Jesus. No, the coach did see that. So ain't going right. What are we, all prima donnas?
The thing is, I feel like he could have been meaner. But the best part of that video was him giving it to Puck after Puck scored a goal.
Whoever scored, good goal.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Coach.
It's not all about offense, though. You were terrible in your own zone, 0-0.
Well, the Bardown squad just had another marquee matchup as they traveled to Michigan to take on the Muskegon Lumberjacks, an actual USHL team, which if you didn't know is pretty much the equivalent of them playing a CHL team. But there was one catch. Bardown started with a 20-goal lead. So was that enough to leave Michigan with a victory?
Ahead for David Deputy. 3-on-1. Deputy near side. Back door, they score!
Yeah! Nice!
Muskegon strikes, and they trail by 19.
Scoreboard, boys! Scoreboard! Check the scoreboard, boys!
Okay, so from that clip alone, I'm just gonna guess they lost. To watch the full video, go to Bardown's YouTube page. Or if you're watching us on Insta right now, just click the link below. And before we go today, we just want to say rest in peace to the legend Bob Uecker. To celebrate, I feel like we should all watch Major League tonight. That's it for me today. We'll see you back here tomorrow.